Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by on a law. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm your host, Cassidy Fowler, and today I'm joined with
Kane Stringer
and Grace Graham.
Nice. All right. So we're going to start off this episode by talking about youth in government and what youth in government is doing given the current circumstances. So Grace, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, sure. So youth in government is a high school club. We have it at all 3 high schools in Martin County. And kids either write a bill or they'll prepare arguments for a case that they're given. And then at the end of the year, we present either our bills or the arguments for the cases at this event called State Assembly. Usually it would have been happening in April of this year, but because of coronavirus, we weren't able to meet. So instead, what we did was Youth in Government hosted a virtual assembly.
Oh, how cool is that? So how
did
that work?
So what did that look like, Grace? Like, how do they divide up all the different, like the Ledge kids and like the different Williams and Bowen? If you could also explain that a little bit, because that probably doesn't make sense to people that don't know youth in government.
Yeah, sure. So at virtual assembly, there were 2 different levels for legislative. So you could either be in the Sullivan level or the Williams level. The Sullivan level was for more inexperienced delegates, mostly 9th and 10th graders. And then the Williams chambers was comprised of like 11th and 12th graders. So we just only had 2 instead of our regular 3.
Oh, how do they divide up the presiding officers? Since I know that there's a speaker, like the president of the Senate.
So most of the Bowen kids. So Bowen, the Bowen level is for people that are, it's like their first year, and so they just took that out and put most of the Bowen kids into Sullivan. And because there aren't any presiding officers that like preside over the Bowen legislature, they didn't have to do anything really in regards to that.
Nice. And then what did executive delegates have to do? Since I know that you're in the exec program.
Yeah, so I'm the secretary for the Department of Environmental Protection. And if you're a cabinet head, so like the Secretary of State, people like that, we had to make an issue brief, which is basically just like a 1 or 2 page long document detailing an issue that's important to our area that we oversee, and then we presented those. And then another role of executive cabinet heads and legislative affairs directors, which is like the other type of job you can hold, is to sponsor people's bills. So if your bill author was attending virtual assembly, you could go and give them support. Usually we'll give a testimonial on their behalf to try and like garner more support from the other legislators to pass the bill. So we gave testimonials and like provided like arguments to them to try and like help them get through the process.
Nice. And are there any other youth in government events going on? Just as a question for myself, like, is there anything upcoming, or is that pretty much it for this year?
So
like, are they going to have what is it called? WIAD? What is that?
Oh, so usually there's 2 events that happen over the summer in regards to youth in government. It's called Y-Core, which is like
there we go.
Service project, and it's like aimed at like high school freshmen and like some of the upperclassmen that like performed really well at State Assembly will get invited to go and like kind of mentor those kids, and it's like a week-long service trip across Florida. And then another event that we have is Kona, which is the Conference on National Affairs, and
Mhm.
that's also usually over the summer. And I'm pretty sure it's like 25 delegates from like all 50 states and District of Columbia will
Mhm.
go like gather together in North Carolina, and basically we have like a state assembly, but it's a national version.
Yeah.
So
So what's
that's-
happening to that because of the virus?
So the Kona is going to be online from what I've heard. And then
on Zoom.
why-
Yep.
Yeah, over Zoom. And then YCore, since it is like a in-person service event, I don't know of any plans that they have in regards to that at the moment. And then
Well,
we
hopefully they
also
can make up for it next year.
Yeah. And then this year they started this new thing called the Judicial Experience Program. And it was open to like all delegates, even if you were a senior. So like anyone could sign up for it. And it was just to allow you to gain a better understanding of the judicial process, because it's not like very well incorporated within the legislative or executive process.
Mhm.
So that's happening over the summer as well. And I think the registration for it just closed, but yeah, it's run by one of our Treasure Coast delegates, Kyle Ramos, because
Nice.
he just became a presiding officer at the end of virtual assembly, so he's overseeing that. So
Are there any other presiding officers from the Treasure Coast, Grace?
I think Kyle is the only one this year.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm-
And then does that mean what's his name? Jacorian? What
Mhm.
did he get? Did he get a position? Is it Jacorian?
Yeah, Jacorian got a position.
Nice.
Yeah. It's good
All
stuff.
right. Well, thanks for the recap, Grace.
no
You're
problem.
welcome to leave at any time, since I know you're a little bit busy right now. But thank you again for giving a quick rundown on, again, what youth in government is and what they're doing given the current circumstances.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank
See you guys
you.
later.
Yep. Bye, Grace.
Very good. That was an excellent interview. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's really difficult to do interviews, by the way, when the people you're talking to are not in person. So I give you extra.
it's it's extremely difficult. Like, especially, it's so much harder to do the show now because a majority of communication is body language and tone, and that's really hard to tell
subliminal.
over technology.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
I've noticed in the last show and now in the beginning of this show that it's definitely not that it's not running as smooth, but it's harder to connect
Mm-hmm.
and converse. Yep.
Yep. But
We'll get past that. We'll
Yes.
push through it.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So let's see. We
What do
have many different topics
Mm-hmm.
to talk about. Kane, which one would you like to start off with? I have this list right here in front of me.
We could start off with
COVID.
just COVID. Yeah.
COVID. All right. To get COVID out of the way for today's show,
All right.
I'll just give quick updates of what's going on in Martin County related to COVID.
All right.
So as of today, there are 281 cases in Martin County, and there are 6 dead. And in St. Lucie County, there are 301 cases, and with 26 dead. And so one thing that was very, very sweet that a neighborhood in Martin County was doing for their seniors, since seniors haven't had the opportunity to truly have their graduation celebration and prom.
Or high
and
school
things like
seniors.
that.
Yeah. Not senior
Yeah,
citizens. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, not senior citizens. Sorry. No. High school seniors. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But so basically, a community in Stewart called Locks Landing
Mhm.
held a parade for all of their 17 seniors that lived in
Aw.
the community. So that was a really sweet thing. I have a friend that actually lives in that community, and he said that it was very nice. They gave him cupcakes, cards, gift cards, and balloons. And there are ex-policemen that live in the neighborhood, and they had the opportunity to get into contact with police officers, and they had pretty much a full-on parade in the neighborhood while still abiding social distancing
Nice.
rules. So that was pretty cool. That's one positive thing
Yeah.
that came out of the events. Yep. So now that, there's more things to talk about COVID,
Okay.
but I guess we can just integrate it
Mhm.
later on in the conversation. Another really pressing matter that happened a little over 3 hours ago is that an 18-year-old boy went missing off of Jensen Beach.
Hmm.
So he was last seen a couple hours ago, 150 yards off the coast of Jensen Beach.
So,
And now the
so he was in
United
a
States
like a
Coast-
wind sail or a sailboat or
No, he was swimming. He
swimming.
swam
So-
150 yards off the coast, and then his friend lost sight of him.
he was deliberately swimming, or did he? Do you think he got maybe riptide, got
No.
pulled out?
Actually, that is a very good question. I couldn't find any information on that. I know that he was swimming though, but
Hmm.
I'm curious if he did get pulled out by the rip current, or if it was
Right, because it's it's breezy outside. There's
Mhm.
in the Bahamas or in the Bermuda area, not Bermuda, but in the Bahama area, there's a low pressure system and it's churning up. We're supposed to get
yeah.
some rain and that sort of thing. So I got to imagine it's a little bit rough in the ocean right now.
Oh, certainly, yeah. But hopefully he will be found. He only went missing a couple hours ago, so hopefully he's still staying afloat and nothing too bad has happened.
Oh my
But
goodness!
I wonder
yes.
if this would have happened if beaches stayed closed. If this is like a consequence of having beaches back open.
I think it's a consequence of being,
Just
out
a little
there.
too-
Yeah, and
just a
rough weather,
Yeah.
rough seas.
Mhm.
Probably.
Yeah, not the best beach day.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Better to stay on the sand.
Yep.
Hmm.
But also in local news,
Mhm.
Martin County, I don't have it written down which council went to a vote, but there was a vote of 3-2 on recommending people to wear face masks in Stewart. So they were attempting to make it required, but they can't push that as a law since people still have the accountability to make their own decision. But
Hmm.
I just found it a little bit odd that 2 people out of the 5 people that voted said that it shouldn't be required to wear them out in public.
This
I feel like it's only beneficial.
Is this a city commission or the?
It's city commission. Yep.
City
yeah.
commission.
Oh wait, Kane, what do you have to say?
I personally think that the government should definitely not be telling people to they have to wear masks to go outside or anything. I don't think that's where the government should step in. That's a personal decision.
Right. But
All right,
but where
I
the government
respect
can legislate, I think, or have some oversight would be inside of businesses.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think they have some obligation that way, but I think Kane is right. Because we do live in a free society and there's free choice. There is that opportunity to follow guidelines or not.
Mhm.
That's I agree with Kane.
Yeah, but
Good
what
call.
are the negatives of wearing a mask?
Well,
That's my
it's
question. I get that it's a freedom.
Yes, there
but-
are none. There are none. It's just again, some people just don't feel comfortable doing it, and they don't know for whatever
Mhm.
reason.
And they have that freedom.
They
to
have the
be
freedom.
fine.
You have the freedom to exercise all kinds of choices. Some of them are good, and some of them not necessarily. So this
Mhm.
is the thing. But
All right.
mm,
Well, we're just blowing through all the topics,
Yeah.
but in other news in Port St. Lucie,
mhm.
the mayor is attempting to get Elon Musk to move Tesla over to the Treasure Coast.
I think that would be a good call.
I think that's an amazing call because
Right.
with Elon Musk recently, for a little bit of reference of the listeners don't know, that Elon Musk opened up operations on his main plant in
Fremont.
California.
Mhm.
But the thing is, the manufacturing of the cars isn't deemed as essential.
Oh, that
So
changed.
it's not essential.
Right, that changed
And-
today.
Wait, what?
That changed today. But yes,
Oh, it did?
yes, the
Oh, wow.
the decision makers in Alameda County, where the Fremont plant is located, decided that it was okay for him to open up his plant as he was in the process of filing a lawsuit.
I read that. Yep, he was in
Mhm.
the process of filing a lawsuit, and he tweeted that he was planning on moving the headquarters of
Right.
of Tesla to either I believe it was Nevada or
Texas.
Texas. Yep.
Yeah, and the governor in Texas said it would be he'd be very welcome in Texas. The governor from Colorado reached out to him and also suggested that Colorado would be a very good location as well. So many places, and of course, obviously, Port St. Lucie would be an excellent location. No doubt about it. Because I mean, you see Teslas running around already out here. So
yeah. Also, it would be within proximity to SpaceX, so he would have two major of his businesses right next to each other. Yeah. Also, we have pretty low taxes compared to other places like California. So
correct. So there is always that possibility that he can locate his plant in Florida. I know that he's talking about producing. He refers to these manufacturing plants as gigafactories. And they're talking about at least 100 gigafactories globally. So,
oh my goodness,
yeah, which means that, they could be. There will be gigafactories on every continent, and likely more than one with 100. So, yeah. So who knows? Florida could still be in the mix, but right now he is resuming. I believe on Monday they will begin production in their Fremont facility in Alameda County. So,
and he's not going to follow through in suing the county
because the county withdrew their rejection. They withdrew the complaint that he could not conduct business. So, so with them withdrawing their request for him not to conduct business, there was no need to go follow through with the lawsuit. So
interesting. I wonder what that could do for our economy. Like, what would be the ideal place for him to put the new headquarters if Florida really is the best? Because I don't know the economic situation over in Texas.
Well, I don't know. He's got his SpaceX facility also in Texas. There might be some good synergy for him to locate his facility, his headquarters in Texas as well. Who knows? He may still keep a small footprint in California. He is the last automaker.
In California, they're the last.
And he employs 20,000 people.
Oh my goodness. If that was brought over to Florida, I can only imagine what that would do.
Yeah.
To them.
I mean, anywhere, right? 20,000. Yeah. So I think the people in Alameda County, they withdrew their objections for him to.
Yeah. Because they realized the negative consequences that could come.
Right. Right. And his gigafactory in Shanghai is currently in production, and they have little or no issues health-wise with the production work. And so his argument is that we've already proven that we can operate business safely. Your objections for health and safety are just not valid. And so that was his chief complaint, that their objections were not based on the science of what he knows that they can do as a company.
But you brought up China with Shanghai. One thing that I noticed that was in the news recently was that even though they opened up Wuhan, the original province that had beginnings of COVID-19, there are 6 new cases that have been found.
Right.
Tracking back to one person. So now they're attempted to put everyone back into lockdown immediately.
That's right. Yeah, I heard that news today, and I think there's some neighboring communities that are already on lockdown, and what they're doing I think they've decreed that everybody in Wuhan has to be tested.
Yep. And that is how many? I feel like it's 11 million people.
I thought 7 to 11, I think, million.
7 to 11 million. Yeah. And that is an insane amount of tests that have to be produced and tested to see and have the results given back. But they have a greater level of control in their citizens than we do.
Yeah. I've seen videos of the police literally with batons beating people in the streets for not wearing their face mask. And I think this is kind of where Kane is coming from in his objection.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about that. I've seen some pretty wild stuff about China,
Mhm.
but
Yeah. Well, yeah. when, when the big dog barks, you better listen.
they also are opening up. They're trying to open up, but now that they're seeing that there's a resurge in cases, I can't really call 6 a resurge in cases, but it could.
Well, it's
resurgence.
showing that they haven't, stamped it out entirely. I think they need to find out where those 6 people, I guess they're doing tracing right now, where those 6 people were, if they had traveled outside of
Oh
their,
yeah, they traced it back. They traced it back to one. I believe it was an 80-year-old man
right?
who lived in an apartment complex, and he got his neighbors sick.
I think
He got his wife and his neighbors sick.
my
So
wife-
that's like the
yeah.
supposed.
my wife told me there was one individual that they have shown that actually was able to infect over 500. I think that's stretching
Oh my goodness.
credulity.
That's-
However, it is a concern that one person could do anything more than 2 or 3 or 12 or 16 people is just
Yeah, and how
Yeah.
does that impact the R naught value? Remember
yes yes.
value of
I mean,
how-
it's just wow. I mean, it's a staggering number, right? It just changes that whole thing, because generally when they look at R naught with viruses, it is what it's almost with decimal points, right?
yeah, but if you were to throw in a number of 500,
Yeah, it changes it entirely.
yeah,
That would be a fun exercise, right? To
that would be a
calculate that.
mathematical process for
Yeah.
sure. Would not be the one. I would not want to be the one calculating that.
No, no. Well, we're in that mystical, magical moment once again where we want to take that regulation timeout. And when we return, we have much more to cover with the youth in government on Treasure Coast Forum. So thanks for sticking with us. We'll be right back. $55 seconds.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum.
All right, nice job, Kane.
Well done, Kane. Very good. All right,
All
so
right.
this brings us to our fun feature that I just sprang on Cassidy moments before airtime. And this feature is called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So these are little snippets taken from the news, some good, some bad, some ugly. I've got a couple of my own. What do you got?
Goodness, because I accidentally used some of them in our last segment. I
Okay.
have to say,
All right.
it kind of just blew through me. I was on such
Right.
a rush going
All
through
right.
all the topics.
So here you go. This is my good item in the news. Opening of the beaches. All right. And the bad item in the news was Adam Schiff was involved in the unmasking of General Flynn. And the ugly, in Los Angeles County, at Los Angeles beaches, you're allowed to go to the beach in your bathing suit, but you must wear a mask.
Ooh.
So there you go. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
How would wearing a mask to the beach even?
It's going to change your whole tan line situation on your face, I
Oh
guess.
goodness, I didn't even think about that. Ooh.
So, anyways, it's just a little light moment in the good, the bad, and the ugly. I thought that could be a fun feature we could kind of trot out on a weekly basis.
Yeah, the like counter died off a little bit. We have to bring that back. I'm sure it'll come back.
Oh, yes. Okay, for our listeners that don't know, why don't you share with them what the like counter is?
All right, so it's pretty obvious what it is. It's a like counter. So for all of the guests that are on the show, including callers, we designate somebody to tally up the amount of times somebody says the word like. And we started this after a caller graciously pointed out that we were using the word like.
Well,
too
I
much.
think he said his head was about to explode.
Oh, well,
yes, it was.
I
Yes,
took it
in a humorous,
more
yes,
lighthearted tone.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Uh-huh.
I'm thankful that he did that because
Yes.
I feel like it definitely helped me to stop saying the word like. so much.
Measurably.
And now I'm thinking about not saying the word like.
Measurably, yes.
Yes.
Great improvement.
Now I just say the word. What do I say?
As
I say
if.
a lot.
Oh yeah, yes.
What
But-
else? What else am I guilty of, Frank? Do I say?
Not too. So I'm guilty of using so, but you notice I've dialed back on that myself.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
yeah.
we
So there we
gotta-
go. Yes.
Yep, we'll designate somebody maybe next time. Maybe since we'll have the upcoming host on the show next week, we can introduce her to it and have her count.
Okay. Good.
Like,
All right.
or we can have Ethan do it. I'll make
Okay.
Ethan go
Make a
with the show. He'll count
the
it.
designated
He's
counter.
proficient,
Okay.
There we go. Yep. All right. So back to the news.
Mm-hmm.
Just to wrap up all the COVID-19 stuff, there's
All right.
this really cool act that's that hopefully will be voted on later this week, and it is a $3 trillion Heroes Act. So what that means is basically $3 trillion designated to COVID-19 relief, and there's many different areas that need relief. So first is the $200 billion that is being given to that is hazard pay for essential workers. So like these essential workers include, let me find my list.
I guess there'd be truck drivers.
Wait, what?
Truck drivers, are they essential workers?
Yes, they actually are because they are in charge of delivery. So essential workers include healthcare providers, law enforcement, public safety, first responders, food and agriculture workers, energy workers, water and waste management workers, transportation workers, public workers and infrastructure support services, communication and information technology, government-based operations and essential functions, critical manufacturing, hazardous materials, financial services, chemical services, defense industrial base, and commercial facilities, residential shelter facilities and services, and finally, last but not least, hygiene products and services. So those are all
yes.
of the work that is deemed essential. But I have a feeling that this $200 billion is not going to cover all the hazard pay for everyone that is risking their lives every single day. That's just, we'll get into that in a little bit. I'll keep going down the line and what else
Okay.
the act is covering. So the act is also covering $1 trillion to either state, local governments to pay for vital workers so that they don't get fired. And then there's going to be a second round of stimulus checks at $1,200. This time they've changed it up a little bit. They're not giving you $500 for each kid. They're giving you, like, every single kid you have in your family, they're giving you another $1,200 for each member that you have in your household. So those multi-generational households are racking up quite a bit of money, but it's limited to $6,000 per household.
Okay.
And then also there's going to be $175 billion allocated to housing assistance. So that's people that can't cover rent and things of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
And then last but not least, $75 billion in testing and tracing the virus. So personally, I think they should give more money to making and tracing more tests, because there seems to be a bit of a shortage, especially with I haven't brought that up yet, but I'll explain what.
Like making the testing kits readily available to like the people who need to be tested. Like I think that's our big problem, because we have the kits, but
they're just not readily available.
Yeah, they're not really readily available.
Now, I understand that they're going to be opening up the pharmacies to allow to do testing as well, right? Like Walgreens, CVS, local pharmacies like that should be.
Well, I haven't heard about that.
I feel like that'd be convenient, but also really dangerous, because like people who are just going in there to get like everyday supplies would be exposed to people who are going in there to see if they're infected or not.
Yeah, I suppose. I think the whole notion is to take away any obstacles or barriers, because it's not a specific. You know, I mean, it's like it's going to be locations wherever you're at. There should be a location somewhere near you, and if you feel that you've been exposed and you need to know, that could give you a ready answer. So, in that respect, I think that there's some validity to that.
Yeah, making it readily
like a separate section at the pharmacy.
They could even do like a little carpool, like what they're doing near hospitals and other testing centers.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, do it actually outdoor. I think they would start with a one of those temperature scanners, and if you don't have a fever, they may give you the option to whether or not you want to proceed with doing the test.
I feel like it's a good idea to have those temperature scanners at like grocery stores and other places that people go out to, because you get tested if you go to the doctor's office, but how many times a week or how many times a month do you go to the grocery store, and how many people do you encounter? And imagine if those people are sick. But that also brings up the question as to, what if you just have a cold and you don't have COVID-19, then what? Then you just get pushed away?
No, I mean, I don't understand your question. So, I mean, if you
had a fever, let's say you went to the doctor's office just for like a normal checkup and you had a fever, so they assume like they wouldn't let you in because you had COVID, because they assume that you had COVID-19.
Right. Well, they may ask you a few questions, but probably for everybody's health and safety, because obviously if it's a building, they don't want to get other people sick. No matter what it is you've got going on. I would imagine that there might be a fallback opportunity to do some additional work, depending upon who you are, what your medical condition is. I don't think for sure, one of the things that we've learned on this whole virus situation is that one size does not fit all, one fix does not fit all. There are some communities that have little or no virus issues. Those communities likely should reopen more readily than because they don't have any problems going on. If there's like really rural communities and nobody's sick and there are no numbers, for them to trace down, why are they staying at home? If you have other communities where the incidence is very high, obviously they're going to be more restrictive, and there's justification for that because you've got the cases to show. And I think that's really the way people should be looking at that. As far as, even approaching your healthcare, if you I think they just can't do a one size fits all, right? I
Yeah.
think you show up, they may need to do some cursory evaluation, ask you a few questions, find out what your history is. And then if you've got a temperature, they'll say, okay, well, maybe there's another opportunity or another location where you can do more advanced testing specific to what your needs are. So I would look for that sort of approach. But maybe we could try to get a medical expert on, because
yeah, that would be really cool.
I am
if you
just
could.
speaking hypothetically as a non-medical expert.
I wonder, like, what type of medical professional would be the best?
I think
get
a
on the
general
show.
practice physician would be excellent because they run into the wide range of cases. They are not case specific about what work they do.
They do, yeah.
So I would look at getting a healthcare professional that is a general practice physician. That sort of physician would be, I believe, a good choice. We'll see what we can do. I'll make a few
Yeah,
phone
we'll see
calls.
what we can manage. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Good. What else you got going on? We got 2 minutes before our next break.
2 minutes. All right. Well, this is a quick little thing that I can bring up. So, Governor DeSantis is saying that that Florida cannot support all of the elder care residents and staff to be tested immediately, because basically somebody higher up was saying that immediately all residents in elder care and all staff of elder care should immediately be tested because of the high percentage of people that are getting infected in these retirement homes. So the thing is, the state simply cannot support these numbers. And going back to the China thing, that in Wuhan, they're planning on testing 11 million people.
Right.
The fact that that is seemingly feasible for them, but we can't even look at 6% of all elder care homes in a span of a month. That was a bad wording. Sorry, let me rephrase that. But it took us, for reference, 1 month to only test 6% of all elder care residents and staff. So it took 1 month to test, I don't know how many people that is, but that many people. And the fact that China thinks that it's feasible to test 11 million in a short amount of time is just wild. Like, how are the resources different? Is it because their government is completely different than ours, or they just have more resources?
Well, they produce the tests there, but they produce the testing kits there, number one. The other problem is many of the testing kits they had sent to other countries were flawed. Italy actually complained that there was too many false positives, too many false negatives. That there's actually some litigation going on right now between Italy and China on that issue.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard anything about that.
Yes. Just because there are tests doesn't mean that the tests are to
valid.
It could be trusted. So they could do a lot, but to do what you do, you have to do it right.
Yep.
And that has more value than just doing a lot and then not so much. Anyways, that
brings us to our break.
That's right. So we got Rocky and Bullwinkle here to guide us into our break.
Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. Again? Up my sleeve. Presto! No doubt about it. I gotta get another hat.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
1 minute. Ten seconds.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. So now we have some news that is not too relevant to COVID-19, but I'll see if I can make a tie to it.
Okay. You're going to stretch yourself a little bit here.
Just a little bit,
All
news
right.
channels, just a little bit. So, are you familiar with the term Obamagate?
Yes.
You are? Oh,
Yes.
that's fantastic. Okay, well, all right. I was not anticipating that.
I'm sorry. Sorry to disappoint you. Go ahead.
All good. All
Share
good.
it with our
Well,
listeners.
for our listeners, if you're unaware of what Obamagate is, I'll give a little bit of reference.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Obama had expressed his discontent for the Justice Department when they dropped the charges against Michael Flynn. Now, Michael Flynn is Trump's former national security advisor, for
Yeah.
reference, and he was fired for lying about talking to Russian ambassadors.
Correct.
Yep.
And ambassador.
Ambassador, sorry. I don't know why I have an S there. All right.
Mhm.
But ambassador.
Mhm.
So he was fired, but the charges were dropped, and now Obama is saying that that is basically wrong. And he also called out Trump for not responding to COVID-19 in a correct way. He literally said, and I quote, "It is an absolute chaotic disaster."
Mhm.
Now, I think that's a little bit of a stretch, personally. I don't think that I think that we're better off than some countries, so I don't think that it's an absolute chaotic disaster. But that's just my personal opinion.
Mhm.
But so now, basically, Trump is went on a rant. He went on a total rant, just bashing Obama on Mother's Day,
Mhm.
and he was saying, "How dare the former president try to just bash the current president? That's never been done before.
Correct.
What kind of diplomacy is this?" Things like that.
Correct.
And he even tweeted the word Obamagate.
Correct.
Now, Obamagate, that reminds me of something personally. It reminds me of the word what? What did you say, King?
Deflategate.
Not Deflategate. No, Watergate. Watergate.
Yeah, it's from the
So
Nixon administration. Mm-hmm.
yes, so when all of that went down with Watergate, that's
Mhm.
basically what he was referring to. And now that raises the question, what does Trump mean?
Okay.
Because nobody was really sure what he meant. And so
Really?
There-
Okay. Go ahead.
there were connections back to Buck Sexton's tweet that Trump had retweeted that stated the outgoing president used his last week in office to target incoming officials and sabotage the new administration. So the fact that
That is exactly what the president is alleging. Mhm.
yes, that is exactly. But the Washington Post didn't really understand that, I
No.
guess. They didn't make that tie.
Hmm.
And so they decided to question Trump some more and asked what these accusations meant, what he was trying to say.
Mhm.
And then Trump said, as Trump would say, he said, "You know what the crime is? The crime is very obvious to everybody. All you have to do is read the newspaper,
Hmm.
except yours." So there he goes bashing the Washington Post
Right.
and proving his point that the facts are already out there.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah.
But
So yes.
my question is,
yeah.
oh wait, what did you
Go
want to
ahead.
say?
No. Go ahead.
My question is this all a distraction or
Oh,
is
no.
it a valid thing to bring up.
It's
past.
valid because it's all bubbling up at this moment as a result of FOIA requests, that's Freedom of Information requests,
Mhm.
and the unmasking of General Flynn was actually all was done. So here's the thing: when a government official speaks to a foreign official, and if that foreign official represents a a foreign government that we're not too keen on, we're probably
Mhm.
going to have some national security people, a special team
Overwatching. Yeah.
listening in on the conversation, right?
Mhm.
Because Americans might be participating in those conversations. As a rule, we don't listen in, so they don't actually keep track as a rule, or don't name who the American is. They're just following the foreign individual.
Mhm.
And in this particular case, there was specific inquiry asking for the name of who that Russian ambassador was talking to. And then that information was leaked to the press, and that is referred to as unmasking. And that's what I had alluded to in the bad, in the good, bad, and the ugly.
Okay.
And that was all alleged that that the allegations that were made was that the Trump administration was working directly with the Russian government, and that Trump was an asset of the Russian government. That was the allegation.
Yeah, pretty strong allegation.
And it was not based on anything. And the incoming national security chief or advisor was having a legitimate conversation with a foreign counterpart, which is perfectly perfectly fine. There was absolutely nothing
Mhm.
unusual, but they make it seem like it's more than it was. Oh, he's talking to a Russian. Well, that's his job. He's supposed to
Mhm.
talk to everybody. So it was very, very unusual. And then a lot of things were said that that there was going to be facts that were going to come out to prove that the Trump administration was evil, sinister, and
Mhm.
biased, and all that. And none of those things have come out. They
Yeah,
just
but my
never
question
came
is,
out.
why did Michael Flynn plead? Well, not plead guilty, but
He did plead
admitted-
guilty.
He did.
He did.
But now he's attempting to take that back.
Correct. And the Justice Department has withdrawn their complaint against him because he was illegally pressured. So he was running up millions of dollars in debt,
Okay.
fighting for no reason, to protect his, and so his name's been soiled. He did absolutely nothing wrong, and that's the issue, and that is why the Trump referred to it as Obamagate, because it looked like there was people in the Obama administration
We're on the inside of it. Yeah.
were orchestrating that, trying to flip him so that he could rat on the president. But there was nothing for him to say. So he took the guilty plea really basically to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that all makes sense now. Yep.
Right. So and of course the people on the other side of the aisle kind of forget to mention that.
Yeah, I didn't
They say,
read
well,
a lot of those blatant facts.
A lot of
and
times
the
people
evidence.
plead guilty because it's a lesser of the
punishment. Yeah.
right. It's the lesser of the two evils.
Yeah.
And not necessarily that he was in fact guilty, but he took the guilty plea just to stop the bleeding, really.
Yep.
And I think most reasonable people understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to hope so. And I believe the Justice Department understood that when they really looked at the case. They said, there's really no case here. Why are we prosecuting this general who has a stellar record? It's just, it's incredulous. So anyways, that is what that whole backstory is.
So that is Obamagate.
Yes.
For listeners.
Right.
That is Obamagate.
Right. Right. Yes.
That's
Well, the
complicated.
president decided to
Because-
name it as such because it happened in the Obama administration. And then there's some people that believe that there's a possibility that that the problem really goes all the way to the White House as far as the Justice Department, the
Mhm.
national security people, the CIA were actually working in concert with the Obama administration to leverage their governmental power against one individual, an innocent individual, to leverage
Yeah.
that, and they were willing to trash him in order to go after a sitting president to undo the election. That
Yeah.
is really the crux of the case. So,
Yeah, it fits the name Obamagate, all right.
there it
Yep.
is. Yep. So that is the story, and I'm sticking to it.
If only media portrayed it like that, because I haven't seen too many. I don't know if I'm looking at the wrong websites, but I haven't heard some of those facts that you stated, and it's interesting that I originally had a different perspective, but you switched my perspective with the facts.
Facts that do help in all things, and that's what we try to do right here on Treasure Coast Forum. And we thank you all for listening. We thank Cassidy and Kane and
Grace.
and
Granum.
Grace was on earlier, and we thank you all for all your help, and we look forward to speaking with you next week right here on Treasure Coast Forum. Thanks again.